Welcome everyone to another video, and in this video we are going to be featuring battles with a modification of my former favorite Ultra League team, where I used to run Tentacruel with Double Dark, in this case Scrafty and Obstagoon. In this case I replaced Scrafty with Double. I just feel Double is like a little bit better in the meta. It's not as weak to Fairy in the back, and as well with way less Cobalions in the meta. For various reasons, I find that Double is actually the much better safe switch than Scrafty. So unfortunately, my camera still not working, or I still haven't figured it out. I'm in Osaka right now. Just finished our day of GoFest, but let's go ahead and get started with the battles. I'm just going to show off two sets here. And we run to a negative lead with Galarian Sunfist into Tentacruel. Even though the Skull does super effective damage, it doesn't do that much to it. So I'm going to take the Earthquake and then build up to the Payback just in case they want to switch out. I'm going to have a little bit of energy for whatever's going to come in. And they come in with a Venusaur. I'm going to throw one Body Slam right here, I should say, because I'm going to be able to make it to the second Body Slam before they can make it to the Frenzy Plant. But still not necessarily in the best spot right now. I'm going to go ahead and try to throw another Body Slam. I'm actually going to shield and do one double kick, then throw the Body Slam, and then look to switch out to Tentacruel. Because one Earthquake will almost take me out anyways, so I'm going to look to switch out. So even if they throw a Frenzy Plant, it's not too big a deal, and they throw a Frenzy Plant, and actually based off of the damage here, I'd actually be able to survive a second Frenzy Plant. And they come into Galarian Stunfisk, and then I land the Skull, and they actually don't bother throwing here. They definitely had the Rock Slide beforehand, but they didn't throw, so that puts me in a pretty decent spot. And they come into Venusaur, they're going to look to build up to double, but unfortunately for them, the Poison Jab would KO them that lot. But right before they were able to reach double Frenzy Plant, and they come into Golisopod. And this is actually pretty okay for me, mostly because both my Pokemon in the back do at least double resist Shadow Claw, in this case Obstagoon triple resist due to its normal and dark typing. And so I'm going to come into Obstagoon. They are going to have to land like 4 X Scissors, I think. Let's see. Let's see how much this X Scissor does. And they throw the X Scissor. Actually, it looks like 3 will take me out, but I'm still feeling pretty decent here. And they throw and I'm actually in a very good spot, and I'm gonna overfarm here. I'm gonna force them to throw a move onto double, because if I were to land the Body Slam, then this game would be over. And I'm gonna be able to at least double up on the Night Slash, and I'm gonna be able to throw the second Night Slash before they're able to make it to 2 X Scissors, which worked out absolutely beautifully for me. So, kind of an awkward team on the opponent's side. Galarian Stunfisk, what was it? A Venusaur and Golisopod. Pretty interesting team. So this is where I want to see this Verzion, and they come to Steelix. I was a little bit slow on the switch here because I actually was thinking about how to play out the Verzion matchup. So I come into Obstagoon. This is a Shadow Steelix, so I'm actually a little bit weary of the Earthquake. They could flip switch here, which would be really bad for me. So I decided to shield, and then now I'm going to look to counter them all the way down, and I'm in a pretty good spot. I'm going to do one counter, then throw the cross chop. Well, not pretty good spot. I'm in an okay spot. I'm going to be able to. They are going to be able to farm me all the way down with the Verzion, but I am going to put them at around a third of the health with all these counters and cross chop. So they're about 60% right now. And I'm going to throw another cross shot, which does about 20% to the Verzion. And you can see I'm going to be able to put it pretty low, almost making it to another cross shot, which they would have been able to survive. And I'm going to let this Leaf Blade, presumably Leaf Blade, go. And they're going to be able to reach another one, which is putting me really, really low. And they throw Leaf Blade, and they come into Aurorus, and I'm going to throw the Scald, which will do super effective damage to the Aurorus, and they actually decide to no shield that, which was totally shocking to me. And I'm gonna throw these double kicks here. These double kicks are double super effective, even though they don't really do that much damage. They are certainly chipping away at this Aurorus. I'm gonna let this go. This is just gonna be Weather Ball, and I do end up surviving. And right now I'm just gonna focus on farming down the Verzion, and that's why I didn't bother throwing the Body Slam, because the one double kick would have KO'd me anyways, and they still have 2 shields. So that worked out pretty nicely for me. And this is a very tough lead here. Before I used to try to catch this move. Well, actually, okay, that's what looks like what I'm trying to do here. I'm going to attempt to catch the Earthquake onto double, but they decide not to throw, and they come into Obstagoon. Certainly not the worst matchup for me to deal with, because the double kicks are double super effective versus the counters only single, and the body slams are able to deal neutral damage, especially if they don't have cross shop. They end up throwing the Night Slash. They did get the boost there, which is pretty awful for me, but that's okay. Able to throw the body slam, and I'm able to double kick down. That must have been a pretty bad Obstagoon, because I actually faced one later, and it was a much tougher matchup to play out. And they throw the Hydro Cannon. I'm going to come into Tentacruel and throw the Scald. And then I'm going to look to switch out, and they come into Shadow Charizard. I am going to throw the Night Slash at the Shadow Charizard, and does a pretty good amount of damage. I kind of have to make a call here whether or not they're going to go Blast Burn or they're going to bait me. They actually go for the Blast Burn, and actually believe they no shield this, which actually ends up taking out the Charizard. Unfortunately, no boost on my side, and so I do get Mud Shot down. And the most reasonable play here, in my opinion, is just to call the bait, and they end up going straight Earthquake, which worked out pretty nicely for them. If I would have shielded and they went straight Earthquake, maybe I could Poison Jab down, but it would be really close. And they come into Charizard onto my Tentacruel, which is kind of wild, and they do build up to the Blast Burn. The Blast Burn does a pretty decent amount. Unfortunately, I get baited, and I will throw the Scald right away at this Charizard, so I won't have a chance for the attack drop, which I actually end up getting the attack drop, which worked out pretty nicely for me. I will shield this or let it go. I end up shielding it, and I'm gonna look to farm. Well, I thought about farming them all the way down. Then I wanted to throw before they got the Blast Burn. Unfortunately, they made the correct play there and threw right before hand and ended up CMP tying. I'm going to undercharge the Scald, so I come out with a little bit of energy, so I'm able to farm down, and then I'm going to immediately save swap, and I'm going to try to play against this Swampert. I will throw the Body Slam, and they do. They end up CMP tying me. I know I've just barely survived this, and the CMP tie is actually really clutch for me. So I throw the Body Slam, and I'm going to be able to land another Body Slam onto their Swampert. I thought they were going to attempt to catch there, but this works out pretty nicely for me. And I had to make a call here. I do think that they're just going to immediately swap, expecting me to come in. And they actually do blind swap on their side, which works out pretty nicely for me. I throw the Scald, hoping for the attack drop. Unfortunately, no attack drop there, but you'll see how bulky Tentacruel is. I'm actually able to survive, not only survive, but throw 2 more poison jabs and make it to the Scald, and they have no shields left, so it's going to do enough damage, and actually gets the attack drop, which is pretty critical in this situation. I would have won this game regardless, but certainly made it much more comfortable to allow me to counter down, and then going to be able to land the Night Slash to take out the Swampert. Okay, that worked out pretty nicely for me. And they are going to come Tentacruel into Nidoqueen. This is a very weird matchup. The poison jabs are single resisted by Tentacruel, but they are double resisted by the Nidoqueen. One Earth Power does not KO, so oftentimes, well, I'm actually not sure what necessarily the correct play is here. So I do end up shielding. The Earth Power would definitely put me pretty low, and I'm going to throw another Scald, hoping for the attack drop, which I do end up getting the attack drop, so I would be able to survive this one even more comfortably, but they decide to come Obstagoon into my double, which is pretty interesting. I thought they were going to run a double dark in the back, which is a pretty common team comp. I'm going to let this go, and then I'm going to look to do one double kick and throw another body slam, and hopefully put some shield pressure onto this Obstagoon. I think they actually end up no shielding, and I have to make a call here. I decide to let it go, and they land the cross shot, and I'm going to look to farm this all the way down. I'm able to farm down there, actually able to switch in and throw the move. I thought about whether I want to shield here or not. I do end up shielding. I throw the Scald, but honestly, I probably should have farmed up a little bit before throwing the Scald. But they end up throwing the Poison Fang onto my Obstagoon. At this point in time, I felt like my only play was to counter all the way down. So I take another Poison Fang. This is going to put me very, very low. But I am gonna be able to counter down, come out with quite a bit of energy, and I wait for it to see what comes in, and it ends up being the Trevenant, and I throw the Night Slash. They end up no actually not no shielding, but I'm in a pretty good spot here, throwing another Night Slash, and they do end up making a very nice catch. I would have to throw at them regardless, so throwing the Night Slash here is actually better for me because I get the chance for the potential boost. And realistically, there's no win con for them, barring me just straight up leaving the match. And I'm going to be able to survive a Shadow Ball at this health anyways, so I'm able to farm down there and do pretty well there. And we're going to have Tentacruel into Galissapod. Pretty awkward matchup because both of us are doing neutral damage with the fast moves. Tentacruel does have same type of attack bonus, and we both have debuffing charge moves in the case Liquidation and Scald. And I do take the first Liquidation, and I'm going to look to take the second one before switching out and bank all this energy, hoping that I can use it more effectively later. And I switch out into double, and we'll see what comes in. It ends up being the Virizion. So saving the energy might be better for me. We'll see how this plays out. I let this go. They throw the Sacred Sword, which will put me pretty low. I throw the Body Slam, and I'm going to attempt to get to another Body Slam, but Virizion will win CMP, plus they have a huge energy advantage over me. And they throw the Sacred Sword. And I do one Scald and then throw the move. I should have Blizzard here, to be honest, but I wanted to come out with a little bit of energy, which I do end up coming with a little bit of energy, and they come into uh, Jellicent, and they actually throw the Liquidation at me, which I found pretty interesting, because they end up throwing the Liquidation at Tentacruel as well, but I end up getting the boost, and the opponent, I'm going to be able to counter down, and the opponent decides to leave, and yeah, works out pretty well for me. I will have Tentacruel into Charizard, which is an absolutely beautiful lead. They come into Swampert. I don't really have a great answer to a Swampert say switch, so I immediately switch double, hoping to get a shield advantage. It is a non-Shadow Swampert, so they will have to land an EQ or 3 Hydros. And I actually believe they throw the Earthquake at me. Maybe I should have went Payback here, because I'm going to actually have to double shield to take out the Swampert. The Swampert is going to be able to make it to so many moves. And unfortunately for me, they are able to make it to another one. And then I'm going to look to try to take a shield back from the Charizard. They actually end up shielding this move, which is okay for me. I decided to switch out into Tentacruel, and then we'll see what's in the back. They throw the blast burn, does a pretty good amount of damage. I am going to throw the skull right away at them. And they actually decide to let it go. And they actually have Wall Rain. And I'm going to throw the skull at them. And I actually believe I get an attack drop. Which works out pretty nicely for me because it's going to force them to throw the Earthquake. And they do throw the Earthquake. And I'm going to come into Obstagoon, and the opponent decides to leave, realizing that there's not any realistic win con for them. This was a very... I make a slight error in this matchup. I actually end up in a pretty fortunate RNG situation here. So they do build up to the future state, but they end up just having Grass Knot. So I decided to no shield. And I think they actually allowed me to... No, they actually made the move before me, which is definitely the correct play. And I throw the Scald at this Cresselia, which I do end up getting the debuff. And I let this go. And I decided to save this energy, hoping that it would be more useful later on. And I switch out into Obscune, but realistically I should switch double. That's like the play that I usually do there, but I thought maybe I could counter down the Cresselia. But they actually end up shielding the move there, which I found pretty interesting. And I let this go. They throw the Scald. And I'm in all sorts of trouble right now. There's not realistically any win con for me, but this opponent plays this matchup really beautifully on their side. I throw the Body Slam, and they sense how desperate I am because they end up baiting me with Ice Punch, which is totally unnecessary, but also not a losing play from their side at all. And they end up switching the move and catching onto Cresselia. Really, really nice play on their side. And they actually have the move on Cresselia, which is even worse for me. And they throw the Moonblast, puts me pretty low. And I decide to throw the Body Slam. And I just want to see the third, but the opponent will not let me see the third Pokemon. I end up throwing the Scald at them, which they end up shielding, and they're going to be able to just counter me down. So really well played on their side, and I think I'll leave it there. So I really like this team with the substitution I made. Had a lot of success with it. I'm going to play with it a few more times, but let me know if you give this team a shot, and if you like, sort of like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see everyone in the next video.